Okay, I'll start the meeting. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for this meeting of the sub-licensing committee. Just as a few housekeeping items, the meeting is being live streamed via the council's YouTube channel, so anybody that is speaking will be obviously picked up and projected onto the internet. So that's fine. What I'm going to do to start off with is, once again, apologies for the slight delay in the starting of this meeting, but hopefully we're all good now. I'm going to get everybody on this top table to introduce themselves to the members of the public that are present, and then we'll go from there. So, Amelia, if we can start with you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Amelia Bolter. I'm Senior Democratic Services Officer and Clerk to this committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rosemary Rowe. I'm Ward Member for Dartmouth and East Dart, and I am the Vice Chair of the Licensing Committee. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Brown. I am Ward Member for Wembury and Brixton, and I am Chair of Licensing at Southampton District Council.
Good afternoon, Councillor Dan Thomas, Ward Member for Newton and Yampton and a member of the Licensing Committee.
Afternoon, Lee Staples, Licensing Specialist for South Hams Council.
Hi, Karen Proctor, Principal of Environmental Health.
I don't think your mic was on, but don't worry about it. I don't think your microphone was on, but don't worry. It's not. Okay, I don't think your microphone's working. Anyway, not to worry, that's fine. Okay, first of all is item 1, which is division of the agenda, to consider whether the discussion of any items of business is likely to lead to the disclosure of exempt information. I'm not aware that we will need to divide the agenda this afternoon. Item number 2 is declarations of interest. In accordance with the Code of Conduct, members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, including the nature and extent of such interests they may have in any of the items to be considered at this meeting. Any items to declare? No. And sorry, I did forget, I do apologise. For everyone's information, we have MEBS joining us via Teams, and MEBS is the council's solicitor this afternoon, so advising us on legal grounds. Okay then, item number 3 is application for a new premises licence at the Angel South Street, Totnes, TQ9 5DZ, which is in your agenda papers. What I'll do is, for the benefit of members of the public in particular, I'll just explain how this meeting will work in the process that we will go through. First of all, I'll invite the officer to give his report on the application that we are considering today. Members, i.e. us three, will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the officer report. After that, the applicant and supporters will be given the opportunity to speak, and speakers have up to 10 minutes to speak each, of which will be timed by Amelia. After that, objectors will have their opportunity to speak again for up to 10 minutes each. After each person has spoken, we'll have the opportunity for councillors to ask any questions of the speaker, and if necessary, we'll ask for points of clarity from the officer. After that's been done, we will allow the applicant 5 minutes to provide a closing statement. And after everybody's finished saying what they have to say, members of the committee will briefly retire to consider its decision on this application. We'll just be going out into another room, and we'll be accompanied by Amelia and Mebs as the solicitor, to ensure that whatever decision we arrive at regarding this application is legally cogent. We will then come back into the room where we will advise of, I will read out the decision that we have arrived at, and then we will close the meeting after that. So I hope that's clear to everybody. Thank you very much. Okay then, so without further ado, I'll just say that I still haven't had that email, so thank you. I'll pass over to Lee, who will outline the application. Lee.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the licensing subcommittee meeting today is to determine an application for a new premises licence at the Angel, South Street, Totnes, in accordance with Section 18 of the Licensing Act 2003. As the licensing department have received a large number of representations both in objection and support of the application, this is the reasoning why we need to determine this application by the subcommittee today. The application itself is for films indoors, and I'll just run through the timings. So Sunday to Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Thursday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The report that you have in front of you today lists live and recorded music as something that's been applied for, but these music has been subsequently withdrawn following on from the publication of the report. So the application no longer relates to the provision of music as a licensable activity. Moving on, they've requested late night refreshment indoors on a Friday and a Saturday from 11 p.m. until midnight. And the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, Sunday to Wednesday 10 a.m. until 9 p.m, Thursday from 10 a.m. until 11 p.m, Friday and Saturday from 10 a.m. until 11:30 p.m. And there are also a number of non-standard timings that are identified in the application, including bank holiday Mondays and Sunday prior to a bank holiday. The timings for all of the above activities would be 7 a.m. to midnight. For New Year's Eve, that would be 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. For the Sea Change Festival on Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. From the Totnes Festival, which is in 1 week in March, that would be 9 a.m. until midnight. For the Wayward Words Festival, 1 week per calendar year from 9 a.m. to midnight. International Women's Day on the 8th of March from 7 a.m. until midnight. And Totnes Pride, which is 3 days in the month of September from 9 a.m. to midnight. The dates of those events that will change each year will be notified to the licensing department at least 3 months prior to the event taking place, is what's identified in the application. And lastly, opening hours, Monday to Wednesday, 7 a.m. until 11 p.m, Thursday to Saturday, 7 a.m. until midnight, Sunday from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m, with the non-standard timings as above, with closing time 30 minutes after licensable activities have ended. A copy of the application form and plan is attached to Appendix A. The premises itself is located in the town centre of Totnes, not far from the High Street, in an area with a mix of residential and commercial properties. The property is a 2-storey building. The proposed licensing area is the first floor only, and we have a copy of the premises licence plan as proposed at Appendix A3. A map of the location is attached to Appendix B, and photographs of the premises and nearby properties are attached to Appendix C. During the consultation period, some 28 representations were received from local residents in objection to the application, of which I believe we have 3 that have been subsequently withdrawn, and 43 representations were received in support of the application, including 1 from a district councillor. A representation was also received in objection to the application from Environmental Health, but that application has subsequently been withdrawn. The issues raised in the representation in objection to the application make reference to all 4 of the licensing objectives, but there is particular concern in relation to the prevention of public nuisance and prevention of crime and disorder licensing objectives. Noise nuisance from both music and customers coming from within the premises and noise from customers leaving or standing outside the premises have been raised by nearby residents as a particular concern. Another concern raised is the potential for antisocial behaviour and criminal damage caused by customers of the premises due to the consumption of alcohol. As I mentioned, Environment Health previously made a representation and they confirmed yesterday as follows. And they've said that their primary concern with making a representation was due to the provision of live and recorded music and a lack of information demonstrating how the applicant would be promoting the objective of the prevention of public nuisance. However, since making the representation, the applicant has been very cooperative and responsive to the concerns of Environmental Health. And whilst they have removed live and recorded music from their application, they note that they're planning to continue engaging the services of an acoustic consultant with a view to implementing measures to reduce the amount of noise coming from the venue. Environment Health are aware that residents are very concerned about noise, and they'd like to reassure them that Environment Health still have powers to investigate noise nuisance under other legislation, such as the Environmental Protection Act 1990. However, given the engagement of the applicants thus far, Environment Health are happy to continue to work with the venue in their efforts to prevent noise becoming a nuisance in the first place. The other part of the Environment Health representation was in relation to people noise outside the venue, and the applicants have recently submitted, within the last few days, a bundle of information that identified additional controls in relation to having a door supervisor, signage, and rules around taking drinks outside of the venue. And they understand that those controls have been in place for events recently.
Okay.
The representations in support of the application emphasise strong management controls in place during events held at the premises, and it's also noted that security staff are used during music events to ensure customers are not causing a nuisance. Sorry, Chair. We also have, during the consultation period, the police have requested additional conditions to promote the prevention of crime and disorder, and these are identified in Appendix G, and these include the condition that the venue will only be open for sale of alcohol when pre-booked events or functions are taking place. This will, in effect, prevent the premises from being open for the sale of alcohol on other days, such as a public house or bar would. And also included is a condition that open vessels will not be taken out of the venue, so no drinks outside the premises in open containers. I would just like to mention about the Live Music Act. Given that music has been withdrawn from the application, I think it's important just to emphasise this section of the report. So the Live Music Act 2012 and subsequent amendments allow the provision of live and recorded amplified music at any premises for the licence for the sale of alcohol for the consumption on the premises between the hours of 8 and 11 o'clock. So any licensed premises can have live and recorded music there. There's no way to restrict these activities through the premises licence during these hours, other than through the review process once the licence has been granted. So, and music that's played at a background level, so that you can still have a conversation, wouldn't be licensable in any case. Should a licence be granted to include the sale of alcohol for consumption on the premises, live and recorded music will automatically be permitted for, until 11 PM on any day, or until the end of alcohol sales, whichever is earlier. For example, on Sunday night, that would be 10 o'clock. Therefore, the concerns relating specifically to noise from amplified music should only be taken into consideration when the activity will be licensable, which in this case would be Friday and Sunday, Friday and Saturday between 11 PM and midnight, and after 11 PM on non-standard timings. Any conditions relating to noise from music would only be enforceable when the license, when the activity is licensable. And I'd just like to take you through to the next proposed way forward. The proposed way forward here is that the licensing subcommittee consider the application for a new premises licence and make a determination in respect of this application, namely to, firstly, grant the application as submitted or subject to any mandatory conditions required. Secondly, to modify the conditions of the licence. Thirdly, to exclude any of the licensable activities to which the application relates. Fourthly, to refuse to specify a person in the licence as the premises supervisor. Or lastly, to reject the application in line with the licensing objectives outlined in Section 4, contained within the Licensing Act 2003. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lee. Members, have you any questions of the officer regarding his report?
Not at
Not
this
at
stage,
this
Chair.
moment in time.
No? Okay. All right. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay. So at which point we come to the speakers. I'm aware there's several members of the public here, and I've got a sort of a tentative list as to who's here to speak or otherwise. So before we come to the speakers proper, can I just confirm who is here, please? So I think is it Claire Phillips Calendar as the applicant? The applicant speaking in favour? Lovely. Okay, thank you. That's fine. Just check here. And is there a sorry, Mr. Norkey? Mr. Norkey, Alan Norkey? No. Okay, that's fine. And in terms of objectors, we have a few down. I believe the principal objector speaking on this is it, Mr. McGregor. Is that correct? Is that correct, sir? Okay, thank you. And I also have down Mr. and Mrs. Wright, who are here. Mr. and Mrs. Wright here as objectors to speak. Yes. Okay. Right. Mr. Wright. Is there a Mrs. Brown here to speak? Mrs. Brown. Okay. Ms. Wasson. Thank you. Dr. Mills. Okay. Mr. Springthorpe and Ms. Goody. Lovely. Okay. And is there a Ms. Adams here? Ms. Adams. Okay. Mr. Cadbury. Cadbury. Right. WDC Willoughby. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you. And is there a Mrs. Cadbury here as well? No, she's not. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So, as I said at the beginning, we will have first of all the speaker who's entitled to speak for 10 minutes. I'll then call Mr. McGregor, who I believe is the principal objector to this application, to speak for again up to 10 minutes, and then other speakers who all have up to 10 minutes. What I will just highlight, please, is please don't repeat anything that's been previously said. That would be very useful indeed if you could stick to prescient points and ensure that you're not repeating anything that's been said already. So with that, I'll call Claire Phillips calendar up. If you'd like to just sit up there, Ms. Phillips calendar. Make yourself comfortable.
Sorry.
Yes.
Claire isn't speaking on our behalf.
Right.
Porter here. We're speaking for ourselves.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I do apologise. No, that's fine. So if you're the applicant speaking yourself, then please. Yeah. So I do apologise. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, could you just... So the applicant's lovely. Sorry, I do apologise. So you have 10 minutes between you, if that's all right. Okay. And Amelia will be timing up to 10 minutes. And afterwards, the committee may ask questions of your application. So when you're ready, please do take it away. Yes, please.
I have to hold it down? Oh, right, great.
Is it only one at a time?
Great. So I'm Nikki Bell, and this is Claire Lindberg. So I'm going to be reading from my notes, hopefully slowly and clearly and with feeling, because I'm really nervous and I'm not used to this environment at all. Yes, not that slowly then. So the Angel Totnes Limited runs out of the Angel South Street, which many of you know is just 51 metres from the clock tower, from the High Street, arguably the centre of Totnes, centre of the High Street. And it's been run like this since June 2022. It's a varied events community venue and has been since 2017. I took on the lease in March 2020 and Claire joined me in April 2022. We have a capacity for 60 people, including staff, which generally means up to 5 staff. And we've recently agreed that we can comfortably sit 50 people. We operate the Angel as a platform to showcase the work of local artists, skills and craftspeople. So artists, caterers, yoga teachers, musicians, craft makers, charity fundraisers, things like that, for example, which in turn offers Totnes community and visitors something really quite unique and wanted. Licensed events will be just a small percentage of the events that we offer. To date, the Angel is successfully working for the many who use it, the hirers and the customers. For us, it's still a labour of love that we're very, very committed to. We need a few more licensed events, such as supper nights,
Mainly supper night.
mainly supper nights, which finish definitely before.
Well, the last one we did, we were both home by 11:30 at night, after having cleared the indoor space.
Yeah. This will make our business viable, or the Angel viable. So a neighbour sent a damning letter to what we think was every letterbox in South Street, High Street and 4th Street, maybe even beyond, implying that we intended to run a nightclub, a pub, a cinema and an off licence from the Angel. I mean, look at
No
us.
way.
We both have full-time jobs, and that is not our intention at all. But we do, this cited a huge amount of fear and a lot of objections to our application, and we understand, you know, the way that the licence notice is written and the way that we fill out the form. We understand that that's really scary. We have been very, very reassuring. This letter also encouraged our neighbours to complain to our landlord, which many did, and he promptly put up our rent 25%. So this is another reason why we really need this licence. Applying for the licence has been a massive learning curve. We've worked alongside and had a lot of support from the fire department, police, environmental health, the licence department. It's been incredible. We've learned a lot. We've jumped through what we think is all the hoops, and we're ready to hit the ground running with a super tight management plan and with all policies in place. We welcome open communication with our neighbours, and we always have. In response to their concerns and with environmental health, we've completely removed our application for live and recorded music, as stated previously. And already, before even the application was made, we don't hire the Angel out for private parties anymore. And we absolutely do not allow any drumming workshops. Is that the time? Oh, sorry. I feel myself getting faster. And when we have a bar, we will be running it ourselves. It won't be anybody else running it. We have a noise management plan in place and in progress that has been approved by environmental health. My writing's getting smaller to fit in. And if we don't get the licence, basically the Angel is stuffed and it will probably become luxury flats. And if we do get the licence, we believe that it will, we believe, like many others, it will enhance our town immensely. Anything else?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Right, members, any questions of the applicant, please, at this point? Yeah. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. So, the immediate question from me is the events that you've put in the application, the extra events, the ones that are Totnes specific, for example, like Totnes Pride or like Wayward Birds, for example. What is your thought process around this licence application with regard to those events? Why are you applying for a licence that covers those? What would you be doing in the Angel during those events?
Yep. Last year already at Sea Change Festival and at Totnes Festival, we put on supper nights, so evenings alongside with the Tens, a cocktail bar. So
Do you mean?
Is that what you're
above what we've?
Yeah. So the pre-existing offer is via a temporary events notice would be a supper night with something like cocktail bar on the side.
Yeah.
And this application is looking to regularise that through not having to go down the Tens path.
Absolutely.
Presumably because of restriction on Tens numbers.
Yeah, which we understand to be going back to 15 instead
pre-COVID
of 20.
levels.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Rowe.
Thank you. I'm not quite clear because the photographs we were shown were from South Street side. And does it go through onto the high street?
It
Or
doesn't.
it doesn't.
Actually. There's a car park behind it. I wish I knew the measurements. I'm not really good at that.
No, so the entrance is just off. You have to go to
Yeah.
South Street to approach it.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
one of the
nowhere
shops maybe that was on the high street opposite the
No.
church, which is now around the back. Yes, so I understand, and it's on the first floor. It's not on the ground floor. You have to go up those steps and into there.
That's
I know
right,
very
yeah.
well where it is, but I wasn't sure if it went through to the main street. No, it doesn't.
It backs up. There's a big car park in between us and the language school, just to place us on the high street. Clock Tower.
Is the car park that used to be associated with Barclays Bank? Or was it further down South Street?
No,
than that?
that's further down.
Yes, yeah, it's very narrow down there, isn't it? I know to my, I've driven down there longer ago, and you wouldn't drive down there now, really. The vets used to be down there on
That's
the right.
right.
No.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And I'm also wondering why you've got so many different opening times. Some is 9 till 9, some is 11 till midnight, and a lot of different times. Why don't you just stick to, say, a certain set times of opening?
Well, originally when we applied for the license, our conversations with Naomi were about having a blanket time, so from 9 until whatever it was. And we, after many discussions, we wanted to just have the main days as longer, so the main social nights, the Friday and Saturday, because of our neighbours and well, because of us as well, because we both work full time and it wasn't meant to be a full-on full-time business.
Sorry, I did wonder on occasion why you've got like from 7 a.m. So
Because that was for yoga, and we were confused about
Ah,
the whole
right.
music aspect of it. So it's been it's taken months and months, this whole process. The original license was very different from this last one that we've put in.
used for lots of different things. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, and we're trying to cover everything.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies, you'll be aware that our principal legal concern is around the four licensing objectives that we have to consider, and one of those is, of course, the prevention of public nuisance. Can you talk to me, please, about smoking? Because clearly, any licensed event will often have smokers, and that adds around that prevention.
So now we have a smoking area, which is, if you know the building, there's some big gates that go under a section of our first floor.
Yeah, I can see those on the photographs in the back. Yeah,
great. That lead into the car park, and our smoking area is to the rear of our building. It's a little table and chairs there, and we've got lots of signs in place now directing round there. Of course, we're responding to our neighbours. And
sorry to interrupt. Is that enforced? Is that actively enforced?
It is now.
yes,
yeah.
it is now. So from a door person,
The photos we sent Naomi, but she said we couldn't use them for this because we were too late within the 24 hours thing. But apparently,
You feel free to tell us about it. Tell us about it, please.
yes. So it is enforced. Yeah. With ticketed events, we have a door person. Otherwise, we have our bar space right at the top of the stairs. So anyone leaving, we can either run down with them and direct them quietly, pointing out the signs asking for respect and quietness of our neighbours. And the police have actually suggested that we have CCTV outside our building. We don't have that, but we're researching it at the moment.
Is your doorman SIA approved? Is that so? Security Industries Authority, a proper full badge, or just?
No, not as present.
And alcohol. Is alcohol taken outside?
alcohol's not allowed.
No,
taken out.
not at all.
which again becomes relevant. Then I'm looking at the officer here on this, which again I guess becomes relevant from an SIA point of view in terms of conditioning alcohol being taken out of the premises.
The application as applied for would allow on and off sales, so you would be able to take open containers out. But the police have proposed a condition that no open containers have come out of the come outside of the premises. So that they're looking to address some of the concerns that have been raised by the respondents in that with that condition.
Happy?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, then thank you, ladies. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so apologies for my earlier confusion. Are you speaking in favour of this as well? Okay, in which case, please do take to the seats. And sorry, could you just confirm your name for the record of the minutes? Claire Phillips-Canada, I do apologise. Right, okay. All right then, Ms. Phillips-Canada. You, like the other ladies, have up to 10 minutes. Please make sure you turn your mic on, and Amelia will time you. On you go.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't realise I was going to be able to speak today, so I've just been making some notes. I was sitting there and I hadn't heard what Claire and Nikki had written. But what I want to say is that, you know, we're talking about a small creative arts venue in the centre of town and at the heart of our community. It's a place where people go to share creative ideas, to make stuff and talk to people. And it's spaces like this that I feel makes our town so interesting and draws visitors to it. And these two women, like they said, it's a labour of love. They literally make no money. They put in so much time and energy and love into this, and they are nurturing artists and local women making food. It's just a beautiful space. And the bar, I feel like the bar is maternally run. They care for people. I find it a very caring, lovely space to go. And I don't believe there is any other space like it in Totnes. This is not another pub. This is a place where women can go on their own and feel safe. And I think it is a very feminine space. And I think it is needed. And when the festivals are on, it's an oasis of calm. You can go there and get really beautiful food at a reasonable price and just relax and recharge before you go out into the festival again. And I think it is a unique and valuable space for this town.
Okay, that everything?
I think so.
Thank you. Any questions, members?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay, thank you very much for your representation. Okay, so now we will move on to those who are making representations against this application. So, Mr. and Mrs. Wright.
You're not taking the gentleman first.
No, he's not here. Are you here to speak, or are you?
No, I'm not going to speak.
Not going to speak. Okay, that's fine. Sorry. That clears that up. Okay, is Mrs. Brown speaking? No. Sorry, Mr. McGregor. I do apologise. Yes. No, Mr. McGregor. Sorry. Please do take to the seat, sir. Make yourself comfortable. And as with the ladies, you have up to 10 minutes and Amelia will time you. Okay?
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
I represent Eileen Brown and Stephen Moshbacher, whose properties live about 6 metres from the front entrance to the applicant. So it's across the road. The photos are a little bit... Sorry, I do apologise. Sorry, is that better? Yes. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I represent Eileen. Hopefully my 10 minutes is going to restart. I represent Eileen Brown and Stephen Moshbacher, and they live in Paradise House and Paradise Cottage, which are directly opposite the application premises. And I visited this morning, and they are... You've got photos in your bundle, and they are even closer when you see it in real life. You'll know the area yourself. I'm not going to go into all of the issues that the residents have raised because you've got the letters and you've read them. But in very broad terms, their concerns are disrupted night's sleep, noise from customers leaving, antisocial behaviour, smokers urinating in the street, vomit, broken glass, and repetitive beats to the music. I'm going to come back to the music point very quickly, but I want to just take you through your policy, and it's a point that Councillor Thomas has already raised. Your policy highlights the importance of your decision making when it comes to looking at residents, and I'm going to read these very quickly because I'm conscious of my time. The council recognises the value of the industry to the economic health of the area. However, the council, as the authority, also has to take into account the needs of residents who have fundamental human rights to the peaceful enjoyment of their property and possessions. That's at paragraph 1.5. At paragraph 2.14, policy says the licensing authority will also have wider consideration affecting residential population and the amenity of any area. These include littering, fouling, noise, all matters that have been raised in the representations. And then at paragraph 24.24, and it's a point that Mr. Thomas has raised already about smoking, and we've heard about the smoking provision, and I saw the papers that were sent through to me in the last couple of days. I don't know whether or not those residents whose houses or back gardens have been approached about the location of the smoking area, but those developments clearly something that they might have an interest in, and perhaps something that the applicants should perhaps have picked up with the residents before they decided to put the smoking area down at the back of the premises. I don't know if that has happened or not, but it is an issue, and it's highlighted at paragraph 2424 in your policy. And then at paragraph 372, the authority would expect applicants to have demonstrated in their operation schedule where public nuisance concerns have been identified, and that is particularly the case here. And I'm going to talk about noise in a moment. The licensing authority recommends that applicants and licensees apply a high standard of control to minimise potential for any public nuisance that may arise from their operation where they are located in residential or noise sensitive areas. These premises are surrounded by residential properties. And the map that I've provided to you as a committee shows the location of some of the residents. We don't have the email addresses of all of the residents who've made representations, but we know that we have marked on that plan. And it is no surprise and no coincidence that those residents who live closest to this application site are the ones that are going to be most clearly affected by it. And I should have said at the outset, and I do apologise for this, is that my clients welcome these premises as a dance, yoga and meditation centre, and we have absolutely and it is a welcome addition to the locality, in the same way that previously they welcomed the gallery that was there before and a builder's merchant. But these premises are wholly unsound, and you'll forgive the pun, for what is permitted. Two very quick points. How am I doing on time, by the way? Thank you. But these premises are fundamentally unsound for the activities that are being proposed. Just one more point, sorry, two very quick points on your policy. At paragraph 4.1.6, applicants should consider the benefits of exceeding their statutory consultation requirements, proactively seeking the views of parties on the application. This includes proactively liaising with local residents, ward councillors, businesses and responsible authorities. It is unfortunate that the local community were not consulted when this application was submitted, because there have been a series of events that have taken place at these premises. One that took place in March last year, which resulted in the applicants writing a letter to the local residents saying that they were apologising, and it's their word, chaos, that resulted as a consequence of the event that they held. So it's not a fear of concern, it's actually born out of bitter experience and the issues that they have had to suffer as a consequence of temporary event notices that have taken place at the premises over the last year. And so it's not born out of just this mythical idea that these things will happen. It is actually things that have happened when events have taken place at the location. A point was made about temporary event notices, just very quickly. The number of temporary event notices has been increased up until the end of, for the totality of 2023. They are not necessarily going to go back to the old numbers at the end of 2023. There is a consultation out at the moment to extend that. So the number of temporary event notices may remain at the higher level that they are now rather than the pre-COVID levels. But if you look at, and this is where I have some confusion with the application, because if you look at the application, they're taking away live and recorded music in its totality, and I'm going to just address you very briefly on that. But there are then 35 days, those non-statutory days, where they are looking to have licensable activities either up until midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. And those are not just on Fridays and Saturdays, but during the totality of the week. So you go from what you may at first blush appear to be a fairly restricted license, something that is looking at 35 additional days, 3 days on average a month, where the hours go way beyond that which is being applied for. We've heard about a doorman, but they're not SIA registered. The doorman should be SIA registered if indeed they're going to be employed. We've heard about the provision of food, but there's no condition on the licence about the provision of food. These are food-driven events. And we've heard that the capacity is 60, including 5 members of staff, 50, seating for 50. There's no condition offered in relation to customers being seated when they are in the premises. And very quickly, so I'm rattling through this, I'm conscious of time. The point about the Live Music Act is that if you grant this licence, the applicants will be permitted to provide live and recorded music, and there is nothing that you can do about it. You can put conditions on the licence, but they are automatically suspended until such time as there is possibly a review or an application is made in due course for hours that go beyond 11 o'clock. The premises are fundamentally unsound for the provision of live, recorded, amplified music. And you get that not only from your environmental health officer's report, but also from the acoustician's report or the sound reinforcement report, which was sent through to you yesterday or the day before by the applicants. The insulation, these are words from his report. The insulation used in the walls and the roof may not have acoustic properties. Bass frequency emitting from the source in all directions may also contribute to noise outside the premises. The residential properties to the south of venue experience resonant frequency emitting from the venues. Soundproofing options should be considered once speaker placement has been addressed, but you can't do anything about that. If you grant this license, they are automatically entitled and permitted to provide live music between 8 in the morning and 11 o'clock. Our view is, and it is not only born out of bitter experience, but from the report of the environmental health officer and also the sound report that the applicants have received, is that you are walking into, or you're authorising an issue that is going to arise. And it is better that those issues are addressed at the outset. If you can't address them, then the application should, I'm afraid, be refused for all the reasons that are set out in the residents' letters. I have put to you, if you were minded to grant the application, and it is a very large if, because our starting point is that this application should be refused for all the reasons that I've set out, looking at your policy, the fact that there is little that you can do, or little if anything you can do, because of the consequences of the Live Music Act. I've set out, and I'm not going to take you through them, but I've set out a number of conditions that you should consider attaching to the licence if you are minded to grant the application. Because the one question that you have to answer is whether or not these premises are likely or unlikely to offend the licensing objectives. And the experience of the experience of all of the local residents is that this application will offend licensing objectives and it should be refused.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Members, have you any questions of Mr. McGregor?
Not at this stage, Chairman.
No? Thank you very much indeed, sir. Okay, so of the rest of the members of the public who are here and who I asked at the beginning, I'm just going to go through to ask if they intend to make any representations on this. If the answer is no, that's fine. So is Ms. Watson, do you? Wason.
I don't think I've got anything really to
Okay.
from what people said. Can I just, the only one thing
Well, if you wish to speak at all, you must do it from there. So I appreciate you might not take up all the 10 minutes, but you have up to 10 minutes. Yep, thank you.
I mean, I'm fairly new to South Street, and I'm really from the other end, and I think I'll only be affected by passing traffic as they leave, or etc. I just think I'm supportive of an art centre, and it sounds as if the things they had there before were super, and I think an art gallery and all those sort of things sound great. But I am concerned about the licensing and the alcohol, and it's a shame that alcohol has to be a part of these things. You know, we've got a younger generation coming up who don't drink as much, and I think it's a shame that has to be the focus. And so I don't really want to add anything more, because I think there's a lot more people who've got a lot more experience of the tenants and the previous things before.
Thank
but
you.
that's the only thing that
I will
wanted
then
to
give
say.
the opportunity for any.
Thank
No?
you.
That's fine.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wason. So, Dr. Mills, yes, please. Again, you have up to 10 minutes should you require it, and committee can ask questions of you afterwards. But please do take it away.
I just wanted to say something about the traffic problems on South Street, because at the moment, South Street has enormous problems with traffic. Parts of it are one way, and parts of it are completely unclear whether it's one way or not. I live at one of the points where it's two way, but it's a one vehicle wide part of the road. And it's very difficult to know which bits are one way and which bits are not. South Street divides into two halfway up, and both parts of the upper part are two-way, even though they're one vehicle wide. Now, I'm just thinking about 60 people coming in cars to South Street who don't know the area. Firstly, where are they going to park the cars that they come in? Secondly, if they come in taxis, where are they going to be dropped? There are parts of South Street that if you get into them, it suddenly becomes one way, and then you have to turn round and make your way back out again. And that's directly opposite, the turning point is directly opposite the Angel. And I can see that really inconveniencing the people who live opposite the Angel. So I think questions of traffic are vital here, because even at the moment, it's really difficult. Residents manage it by residents backing down the one-way streets. But I just wonder how, if we've got even 20, 30 cars coming into South Street at night, where they're going to park and how they're going to get out of South Street. Fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the speaker, please?
No.
No, Chairman, not at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your representation. Cheers. Okay, moving on to Mr. Springthorpe and Miss. I apologise. It's Gutierrez. I only had the spreadsheet cell open halfway, so it appeared to be Guti to me. But I do apologise. Do you wish to speak on this? Yes, please do. Take to the microphone. As with everybody else, you have up to 10 minutes should you require it.
Thank you. We are new residents in South Street. We've only been there for some 6 or 7 months. We're very close to the Angel. We're concerned about the disconnect between the business model that's being described and what's being applied for in the license. We are both very frequent users of yoga studios and art galleries and all the other wonderful things that are being described for the Angel. I can't recall any of them ever requiring licensing. The licensing issue seems to be quite separate to the use of the Angel, which the owners are describing. They're describing the thin end of a very thick wedge. The thick end of the wedge is what's allowed under the license. I counted up the days, the number of the Thursdays, the Fridays, the Saturdays, the special occasions, the public holidays, and up to 15 TENs adds up to something like 180 days a year. That means that if the business is successful, they could be operating that bar 50% of the time. The disconnect, I think, is the thing that needs to be addressed. I do not understand why the license can't be for less. Most of our other concerns have been discussed, so I won't repeat them. I'm completely confused by the references to the off license. I'm not sure that anybody said that requests for the off license have been withdrawn, and yet then people are not allowed to take containers out. And again, not to cover ground that's been covered, we have a lot of concerns about the traffic. Now, a colleague has mentioned people arriving and leaving and taxis and such like, but the sort of events that are being described involve musicians arriving with their instruments and leaving, which has to take place in the turning circle, and deliveries of alcohol, presumably, also have to take place in the turning circle, which is right next to the Angel. So apart from the parking and taxi issues, this is inevitably going to put a great strain on a very important part of South Street.
All I want to add is that most of the houses in South Street being listed, you can't have noise isolation on the window panes or anything. One of our bedrooms is 50 yards away from the Angel, right at the top of the house, and I can see the big window. If that happens, I mean, I'm a very light sleeper already. It's going to be detrimental, and that's as well where the smokers' talks or whatever is going to come up that way. I'm only about 50 meters as a crow flies from my window to theirs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just quickly refer to Mr. Staples. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify with respect to off sales, so as is, the applicants have requested to be able to sell alcohol both on and off the premises. And I think the confusion here is where the police have suggested a condition that no open vessels are allowed to be taken away from the venue. So no open bottles taken outside. And that, I believe the thinking there is that they don't want people congregating in the street and consuming alcohol that they have purchased from the premises if the licence was granted. What they would have no objection to, it would appear, would be patrons being able to buy alcohol from the premises and take that away from the premises for consumption in an appropriate area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Members, have you any questions for the speakers?
I don't think so, Chair.
No? Okay, thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated.
Thank
you. Okay, moving on then. Let me refer back to the spreadsheet. Ms. Adams, do you wish to speak? You do? Okay, please do. As with the rest of the speakers, you have up to 10 minutes should you require it.
Yes, I'm not sure which to press.
Right hand button.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm an artist, a professional artist, and I exhibit work, and I'm also a psychotherapist and work with trauma. Both of those activities require quite a lot of quiet, and I really value the times when I do have quiet. There are times when I live about 50 metres from the Angel. And originally, when I first moved in 15 months ago, I was sympathetic to what they were trying to do and had even thought about exhibiting there. But my experience has been that there's a gap between the safeguards and the considerations that Nikki and Claire say that they'll put in place and what actually happens in practice. And I think that's my biggest concern, that they're just trying to spread themselves too thinly in terms of what they're trying to do and how they're staffing what they're trying to do in terms of having people available. In the summer, it's been my experience that the door is left open, and it's left open because it can become so hot that leaving the door open is the way to cool the building down. And that, of course, means that sound escapes. I have a very small courtyard, which is, again, about 50 metres away from the Angel. And that's a kind of lung for me where I can go and have some quiet. I really don't want it polluted with noise, which has happened in the past. I don't want it polluted with smoke. I just want some quiet, and I don't trust that I'm going to get that. I'm also concerned about fire. I contacted the fire service because I'm concerned about what would happen if there was a fire. The buildings in the area are, there's a lot of wood in the buildings, and I'm wondering how long it would take the fire service to reach South Street, given the parking and the turnarounds, and what would happen, basically.
Okay, is that everything?
I think so at the moment, yes.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much for your representations. I believe, so Mr. Cadbury, do you wish to speak? Okay. As with everybody else, so you have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you. I should say at the outset that my wife, Dr. Cadbury, was also hoping to speak, but at the very last minute, she just couldn't face it. Her mental health has been severely affected by this since 2020, and she came all the way out to Fullerton House, but at the last minute, she simply couldn't face it. So I have some notes from her, and I have my own notes. We live across from the Angel at 28A South Street, which is 11 metres away from the front door of the Angel. And yes, my main point, which Mr. McGregor made very well, is that this venue is just totally unsuitable to be a licensed premises. The doors open out into a very narrow street. The building is an old hayloft and simply was never built to have sound insulation. In fact, it seems to me that the construction acts as a sound box that actually amplifies the sound. So the experience we get living opposite is mostly the kind of the bass beat. We are, and you've heard from a number of people who are local residents, it's a creative domestic area. It's been described as a mixed area, but that's really not the case. You know, the premises are surrounded by houses. They're surrounded by families, young families, older individuals, younger individuals. You know, we have our creative lives, we have our work lives, and so having a licensed premises so close to us would severely disrupt that, would prevent us being able to pursue our music, art careers, to be able to use our house to work, to write, extremely disruptive to our lives. And again, just to, I will just repeat the fact that when we received the notice of the license application, it wasn't fear, it was anger because of this disconnect between what is said and what we have experienced. You know, that trust has been completely eroded. You know, we were told that, you know, since we've lived there since 2007, the area is quiet. It may be quite close to the high street, but it is not part of the high street. When there are not events at the Angel, the area is quiet and we can get on with our creative lives. When there are events at the Angel, it is not quiet. And I find it quite hard to connect the description of this as a kind of oasis of peace and creativity, talking about the Angel, to what actually happens. My most recent experience was just back in March, and it was kind of approaching a group of men who were smoking and swearing outside the Angel. And they were first extremely rude to my wife, so she kind of retreated, and I asked, hopefully politely, if they could stop, and I was told to, excuse my language, F off, and if we didn't like it, we should move. Which just seems to be an attitude that it just completely disregards the nature of the local community. So I'm just going to refer to some of my wife's notes, which she would have liked to give in person. There is this disconnect again between what has been said and what is being advertised on social media and the websites. The fact that there wouldn't be private parties, and yet still advertising for things like weddings, which to me seems like a private party. The door policy, the kind of, I can't remember the technical term for it, but should there be a troublesome person who's taken too much to drink in the venue, one of the strategies is to eject them from the venue and to the street opposite our properties. We've experienced that in the past. I don't think there was anybody on the door in the past, so people just came out, got into a fight, came right up to our windows. There is nothing between the road and our properties. And as I think I said it in my original objection, I was extremely afraid for the security of our property. And really, this has happened because there's been a change from 2017, when it was an artist studio. None of this, these issues just never occurred, and it's been since that time that the issues have occurred, and they've carried on since 2020, when Nikki and Claire, or Nikki initially took on the venue. I think all the other points I was going to make have been raised by others.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Any questions of the representations made? No? Okay, thank you very much indeed. All good? Right. And I believe finally, is it Mr. Willoughby? Yes. Do you wish to speak, sir? No, I don't. I think. Okay. All right. Thank you. If you wish to take to the microphone, then yes. As with everybody else, you have up to 10 minutes.
Okay. My name's Eileen Brown. I live in Paradise House, which is directly opposite the Angel. I measured it the other day, and it's just under 4 meters. My building is under 4 meters away from their building. My building is Grade 2 listed. We have no double glazing, and it's not built sort of, doesn't have any sort of sound insulation. I believe that the Angel is also a listed building. I'm not quite sure about that, but it is basically an old hayloft, and it hasn't got. There's just nothing to it. It's a very rickety building, really, and would require quite a lot of soundproofing, I would think, to make it effective. But as far as I know, they haven't done anything apart from, I believe they have put in some glass double glazing. I've lived there for 50 years, and although South Street is connected to the High Street, it is incredibly quiet at night. We don't normally have any problems at all. And I think that's really all I've got to say. It's just I am so close to it that any sort of attempts to stop people talking, making noise and all the rest of it. There is a flying freehold next to me, which is my neighbour's driveway. And in the past, people have congregated under there and talking and smoking. And I just feel I've read all the stuff about how they're going to move people on, but I just don't see how that's going to be accomplishable. Also, another point I have is that South Street has got a lot of very small alleyways that lead to people's houses. It's historically like that. And there are so many places that people can just disappear within 2 minutes and they're up an alleyway or something. Very, very difficult to police in that way. So that's all I have to say, really.
Okay, thank you very much. Right. So at this point, I would invite the applicants back to, if they wish to say anything further, to sum up. Yeah. No, I'm afraid you can't. Sorry. Right. So I will invite the applicants back up to sum up for up to 5 minutes, should they wish to. Okay. All right. Sorry? You want to ask a question now?
No.
Okay. Right. Okay, so you have up to 5 minutes to make a closing statement and sum up, should you wish. Thank you.
Yeah, can we firstly start by saying that a lot of events at the Angel that have been referenced were before our time. Since we've been there, the police have had no complaints at any temporary events notices, evenings, and environmental health they were called out before I took it on to a party that was referenced, and there was a complaint from a party where hirers lied to us, basically, and in the letter where I mentioned the word chaos, because it was chaotic, to the neighbours, I completely stopped straight away any private parties. There haven't been any private parties since that aren't run by us. So no one can hire the Angel for a private party. Also, parking, we feel is quite irrelevant, because anyone visiting Totnes uses the car parks or parks on the high street. Certainly there will not be 40 cars, thank you. Any deliveries of alcohol we do ourselves, and we make it a point of doing it at really quiet times. We don't have deliveries. And also we have an extensive noise management plan in place, as we said earlier, where we're in consultation with an engineer who is helping us. We've got lots of plans to move the speakers to put in. You've read it all, no doubt. Rock wall and stuff like that. What am I missing, Claire?
So the plan also is, in conversation with environmental health, we've been constantly, whatever happens, we've been calling them and talking to them about it, seeing whether it's the right thing to do.
The fire department are satisfied around fire and the Angel. But we've got a few things to do, but they're not concerned about fires.
Us starting fires.
And yet, let's just acknowledge that there is a disconnect between what looks like on the application and what we're saying. because that's how the application is filled out. We absolutely do not have any intention of running a nightclub. And I live in the centre of town. I bought my flat in the centre of town, knowing that it was the centre of town and it would be a little bit noisy. Why would you move into the centre of a town if there wasn't going to be some noise? That said, we feel like we're really listening to the objections around sound, and we are bending over backwards. We've still got a hell of a lot to do. A lot of the complaints that were made, spoken here today, if you've read our policies, we've really, really stepped up. We worked really hard, jumped through every single hoop that has been put in front of us to help with the noise, dispersal, with gathering around the street. Something that's stayed in my mind with a question, I think it was Dan, about the smoking area. It feels like there's a bit more investigating for us to do around that. I want to acknowledge that. Anything else, Claire?
Have you guys seen the Angel Handbook with the policies we've all put together? Okay, so that's come about. We made a list of all the objections that we received, or that you guys received, and we made a list, and we've also put in there exactly what we've done. And I don't know if you got a copy of that. I think Naomi had a copy. I don't know if that's been sent around. But I've got a spare copy here if you need it. We just want to say we've listened, and we're
really
constantly listening, and we're constantly putting things. Yeah, we're putting things in place all the time to make it a more viable venue.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, I know that Councillor Thomas certainly has a question.
Ladies, can you remind me, please? I was a little confused earlier on in your initial presentation. When did you assume ownership of the Angel then? When operationally?
So we're cooperationally.
Well, the two of us.
Well, yeah,
so things have changed massively since Nikki and I.
So when did you take it on?
That was June.
June.
I came on board.
And we set up the
April,
company in June 2022. Last
so
year.
I came on board in April 2022.
Okay.
And that's when we started upping our game.
So in fact, all the environmental health complaints that we've got listed in the pack are
They would predate the current management, but the involvement of environmental health, as the ladies have indicated, is ongoing.
Yeah, completely,
definitely.
And we really
And the
value
fire
that.
department.
And the police, the fire, we've really made an effort to work with them.
Okay. Can I come on?
Yep, please.
So, ladies, on you referred to your policy documents. So, I'm looking at the dispersal policy now specifically. We're talking about the prevention of public nuisance, and you said, for example, that in terms of staff procedure and responsibilities, a staff member should visit each group or individual in the premises, advise them in a friendly manner that the premises are closed, and advise them they should leave. What responsibility are you assuming for actually ensuring that they leave quickly and quietly when they're out of the premises? Because obviously I'm very aware that a lot of the objections raised are around not what happens inside, but what happens outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it comes back to my earlier question about door staff and the like, because clearly asking people to leave can be an incredibly difficult and challenging and skillful job, and it isn't something that one can simply undertake just by being asked to do it.
Yeah.
So I wonder what your plans were around that, please.
So plans and what we've done before. So we've got a door and street management plan policy that is part of our training manual. It's what anyone that's working with us or for us will get that. We'll have to sign it off, show that they've understood it, and have a verbal conversation with us too about it. Where our starting place is kindness, really. So we don't go in a sort of abrasive manner. We have given out lollipops in the past to stop people from talking. We've made a huge thing over about noise and whispering. We've turned it into humour. As people leave, we're coming at it from every single angle. Of course, we've got the notices, the signage, the more serious stuff in place, and we do employ a door person at ticketed events, and we've got us at the top of the stairs at the bar when there isn't a door person. Have I answered that?
No, so what you're talking about is once we get them to the bottom of the stairs at the front door, how we get them away from South Street. So it's literally frog marching them up and moving them on. And to be honest,
Tiptoeing. We have
haven't-
tiptoed with people.
But also we
Literally.
haven't, I mean, I've been to every event and I haven't had that experience with anybody. I mean, Joe was the only person that we had to sort of frog march off.
Yeah.
But he arrived at the Angel
Okay, thank you.
intoxicated.
One further question from Dan.
Last question from me, please. Do you recognise? You know, it's we are sitting here as a licensing subcommittee, and we're listening to you on one side, and we're listening to a series of neighbours with objections on the other side.
Sure.
Do you recognise the objections that you're hearing? I mean, do you recognise the testimony of people swearing in the street and smoking in the street and responding unfavourably to residential requests that people move on? Is that something that you recognise arriving? You know, I'm not trying to be unfair here. I'm trying to get a picture of what you perceive your business to be in terms of the people that are frequenting the Angel.
Well, the majority of people that come to the Angel are our age and older. They
Very considerate.
I'm very considerate and really, really love the Angel and use it for various events. There's our smoking area hasn't been in place for long. It's very new. We tried other things to disperse the smokers. Of course, it's under Eileen Brown's. Could be under Eileen Brown's window. We've had complaints from her. We know.
Can I come back? I haven't phrased the question very well.
Okay,
Clearly, I'm sorry. I apologise. What I'm getting at is, do you acknowledge a difference between the clientele that you get through your core original business activity and the i.e. yoga and the like, as opposed to the clientele that you're getting when you have licensed events?
No, the majority of people are the same, to be fair.
Thank
Is that
you.
what you?
Yes.
I wasn't understanding.
Sorry.
So there's a huge number of people. I mean, yeah, they are. There seems to be. We seem to be developing a little community around the Angel. That they are people that are using it for yoga. We've got an art exhibition coming up. Some of those cross over with yoga. Some of them come to our supper nights. It feels like a developing community of people, like-minded people, and yeah, I mean, I can't think of an occasion where I've been there where it's been a real problem with people that have been drunk and causing, loud noise or whatever in the street.
And we didn't have a TENS in March, so I don't know what events that was. We didn't have one.
That Tom was referring to.
Yeah, there wasn't.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Rose, any?
No, fine.
No. Okay. At which point, I'll say thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your representations. What we will now do is, all good? Yep. Go on, Lee.
Just a couple of very small points.
Can you just turn your mics off for a second? Thank you.
Just a couple of very small points for clarification. The reference was made to the fire authority and concerns around fire safety. Just to clarify, we've not had a representation against the application from the fire authority. The fire authority provided information that they've provided to the applicants suggesting further works, but that's the total extent of the involvement of the fire authority at the moment. They have visited, which is helpful prior to this application hearing today, and they have given feedback. Secondly, parking has been mentioned by a number of respondents. The issues around parking wouldn't be something that you'd be able to take into account in terms of the license, because it doesn't relate specifically to one of the 4 licensing objectives. So I just wanted to clarify that. I'm aware that the committee will be aware, but for members of the public that are present, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm afraid not, sir. That's. Sorry. I will allow no. Okay, for consistency, I will allow the Mr. McGregor to to wrap up 5 minutes. But I'm afraid it's only you, sir. Okay.
It's your discretion.
It is at the discretion of the chair. So we will. So I will only allow. So Mr. McGregor is welcome to wrap up comments for up to 5 minutes, and then obviously questions again. After that, what will happen is that we will retire for a short while to consider our decision, and we'll come back in after that.
Thank you. I will hopefully be less than 5 minutes. I want to clarify one point about when the applicants took over the premises. It was a question that was asked by Mr. Thomas or Councillor Thomas, I apologise. My instructions and understanding is that the applicants took over the premises in 2020 when we were in the midst of COVID, and that the first temporary event notices that they applied for were in March 2022. So all of the temporary event notices. And I think that the date that was given by the applicants was June, but they have had ownership and running the premises since 2020. That's my understanding, and it may be for the applicants to clarify if that's a point of interest for you as a committee. I have focused almost my entire submissions on policy and the law, and I make no apologies for that, because it is the local residents, it's the local voice of those who live closest to these premises that is perhaps one that resonates most loudly this afternoon. And I have, it is much better hearing it straight from those that are most directly affected by the application. And just one final bit of policy is at 9.43. The authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what is intended to be achieved. And what you've heard is a lot of evidence, first-hand experience from local residents who have suffered as a consequence of the previous operation of these premises when they have had temporary event notices. The offer of the removal of live music actually is an offer of nothing. Live and recorded music, because of the exemptions provided by the Live Music Act, which will be automatically the applicants will be automatically entitled to if you grant this application. And then the one other question that did occur to me is that if they have removed live and recorded music from their application, for the 35 events or so where they're looking for hours beyond their standard hours, then there's going to be no live and it is simply going to be the sale of alcohol, which can only exacerbate issues and problems for local residents after. If, and I say it's a big if, and it's caveated with everything that I've said before, if you are minded to grant the application, and I would strongly urge you on the basis of everything that you have heard to refuse this application, and I'm afraid to say that that is the only sensible conclusion that I think you feel you can reach in relation to what the local residents have experienced. I have outlined a series of conditions, all of which you can legitimately attach to the premises licence. Feel that it's appropriate to grant the application in the first instance.
Thank you very much. Any further questions?
Mr. McGregor, just so you're aware, I won't be asking applicants to come back on the dates, simply because in our packs, Appendix D, representation from the environmental health, there are 4 cited examples, all of which predate the 10s that we have in our pack. So I'm making the assumption, as I did via the officer, that was my reason for the specific dating. And the point I was making was that those were predating the 10s that we're looking at. It was simply that reason, just for clarity.
Okay, thank you. Right, thank you to everybody for those representations. We will now retire for a indeterminate period to consider our decision upon this application, and we will then return to the chamber to announce our decision in due course. Thank you. Okay, so by finger, yes? Yeah, okay. All good, Steve? Splendid. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for waiting. The committee has considered its decision, and therefore I will read out the decision notice that we have agreed on. I should just point out that this will, of course, be sent to you properly as well. So, thank you for attending the licensing subcommittee to consider an application for a new grant premises licence for the Angel South Street, Totnes, pursuant to Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003. The subcommittee have carefully considered the application, representations from the applicant, the objectors who have submitted representations in writing and attending in person, and those who support the application in the same way, and the statement of licensing policy and statutory guidance. It is noted that the police did have initial objections to the application, but that four conditions were subsequently agreed between the applicant and police. This has led to the police withdrawing their objections. All parties should note that the applicant has agreed to the condition that the premises will only be used for the supply of alcohol when there is a pre-booked event or function taking place. Similarly, Environmental Health had objected to the application on the grounds of public nuisance, but they too have withdrawn their objection to the applicant removing live and recorded music activities beyond 11 p.m. Such timings are therefore not regulated entertainment pursuant to the Live Music Act of 2012, and no conditions can be imposed on the licence. The committee have decided unanimously to reject the application. The subcommittee received legal advice in terms of the following: the licensing objectives, the legal test to be applied, the options available to the committee, and Section 182 guidance. The reasons for the decision are as follows. The committee were not satisfied that the licensing objective of the prevention of public nuisance would be promoted. This is because A. Residential properties are in close proximity to the applicant's address, B. The harm to residential amenity by way of public nuisance, and C. Smoking areas which will not be policed adequately and cause public nuisance. 2. The construction of the building is unsuitable for a licensed premises as there is insufficient acoustic escape provisions. 3. The committee were not satisfied that the licensing objective of prevention of crime and disorder would be promoted. This is because the committee members were not properly satisfied by the proposals of the applicant in connection to the antisocial behaviour, and hence it would not be appropriate to grant the licence. Finally, any persons aggrieved by this decision has a right to appeal to the Magistrates' Court no later than 21 days from the date of receiving the decision notice. Can I ask that this is understood? Okay. At which point, I will thank you all very much for your attendance indeed. That decision notice will be made proper to the applicant in due course. And at this point, I will close the meeting. Thank you.